So, what is going on, guys? I am Black Ops Amazing. Welcome back to another video. Now, over the past week or two, maybe even 3, I've been going over certain maps doing, I wouldn't call them reviews, but overlooks on old maps, and what I think of them now. Has my opinion changed? How I think some of them changed zombies for the better, and how some just weren't really that good or all that important. One of my favourite maps, as I'm sure you will know, as I've said many times, is Shadows of Evil. I believe that map changed zombies for the better. It introduced a lot of new features such as the Apothegons, who are now a massive part of our zombie storyline. And then I also talked about maps like Revelations, how I thought that ending was a failure, and Town, on how I believe it's one of the best maps we've ever had, but goes under the radar just because it wasn't a main map. And then more recently, I've done a video on Shin Onuma, again another revolutionary map in the zombie storyline. And in my latest video a couple of weeks back, I talked about Zetsuo no Shima and how actually it's not as bad as I remember. Yes, it had a difficult start, but overall, and in no way am I saying it was the best, but I don't think it was terrible. However, in today's video, one of the maps that the community seems to consider one of, and in some people's cases, the best map in zombies is Buried. And this is a strange one because I've never considered Buried, for me personally, to be a brilliant map. I've always thought it was average. For a lot of people, this map fits into their top 5, whereas for me, usually, it wouldn't get into my top 10. I've never really seen what people find so special or great about Buried. I've always thought that actually maybe people are just overrating it and saying that it's better than it is, but breaking it down bit by bit, all of the features in this map, I can see where people are coming from. So Buried was actually the last map that we ever played as the Transit Crew. When we first switched from the Ultimus characters, Nikolai, Takio and Dempsey, over to the Transit Crew, Misty, Martin, Samuel and Russman, in both Transit and Die Rise, you could tell that it was a hard adjustment for people to make. Having played as those original characters for such a long time, yes, we'd had singular maps before where we'd play as a different crew, but that was just a one-off. This was the first time that we'd really ever played as a different set of characters for more than one map. And I can remember like it was yesterday, people hated the Transit Crew. We couldn't wait to go back to the OG characters. And so we'd gone through Transit, Die Rise, Mob of the Dead of course was a break in the middle, and then we had Buried, which was the last time we ever played as them. Would this map have been any better if we played as the OG crew in it? I don't think so. I think this map perfectly fits the Transit characters, just their style, the way they are, the old western theme. As for the atmosphere, it was totally different to any zombies map we'd ever experienced. Sometimes you can say zombies maps reuse a lot of assets and old models. Some areas and certain ones can look the same as others, but Buried was totally different. It was an old western town teleported from the 1300s to the year 2035, and I specifically liked the starting area because it was totally different. You were above ground and then the rest of the map was below ground, and you would rarely come back above ground ever. I think the atmosphere was perfect. The music that would just generally play across the map, and then especially at the end of a round, it would make you actually feel like you are there. One of my favourite things was the HUD, which I think we take that for granted, especially looking at BO4's HUD, how plain, bland and boring that is now. It's not unique for each and every map as it was before. That makes me appreciate the ones we had for BO2 and especially in this map. Of course, it's only a little thing, but it just all adds to the immersion. And then there was the saloon, the church, the sheriff's office, which contained Leroy, which we'll talk about more in a bit. The whole main area looked pretty tight and cramped, but actually, because of the lower and higher levels, how you could get onto the roof of buildings, it made it feel a lot bigger than it was. And I think it was the perfect size. Some maps are too big, like Transit, I believe Origins, and a few others. Some are too small, and I think Buried is in the right category. Let's not also forget that there was the Haunted Mansion with the witch or the ghost, whatever you want to call her. There are a lot of mysteries surrounding Buried that we don't know. The ghost is one of them. We don't know exactly who she is. She tells us she is the lady of the house, but who owns this mansion, who built the paralyzer, the time bomb, there are a lot of mysteries surrounding Buried. And then behind it, there was the maze, which was fun. It was something different. And then like on every map, there was the Pack-a-Punch, which was a little bit of a challenge to get to, but not impossible. And I feel like that describes this map. It is a challenge. It's not easy. You have to be a decent zombies player in order to get to a high round. But once you've played it a few times, you've figured out the layout. You know what to do, the best training spots. If you can make your way around the maze, it's a challenge, but it's not frustrating. It's still fun. Two of the best things on this map are the wonder weapon, which is the paralyzer. It is totally different to any one that we've had before. As I said earlier, we don't know who made it, but it was a strange one because it doesn't take ammo. It has a cooldown timer on it, and it doesn't kill zombies very fast. But if you use it right, as with everything on this map, if you master it, it can be really good. And the same goes for the time bomb. Another piece of equipment that's totally different to anything we've seen before, that is unique and makes this map so special. And then, of course, we had Arthur, or Leroy. Now, he's been a massive character in our zombie storyline since we first heard of him. We know he fought alongside the Wolf King during the Great War, with Primus, the Keepers, and the Apothecons. But in Buried, we first find him locked in a jail cell. It seems like he locked himself in, but when we free him, he just roams around the map, doing his own thing. However, you can also use him to help you out. As I'm sure you guys will know, he can attack the zombies, he can hold a crawler, we use him to get to areas that we wouldn't be able to without him. We need Leroy to unlock Juggernog and to allow us to get back to the spawn area, so he's definitely useful, and I'm not gonna lie, I'd actually love to see more characters like this in zombies maps. Just extra NPC characters, such as Leroy, or we had George in Call of the Dead, that would just roam around the map and not really do anything. George in Call of the Dead was a little bit more annoying because he slowly followed you and then would attack you. However, Leroy was perfect, and I actually want to see some more maps do this. Buried was quite different because it also had a lot of buildables. Yes, maps had done this before, but Buried, I believe, had the most out of any. There was the turbine, the trample steam, the subsurface resonator, the head chopper, the nav table if you could count that. We also had a brand new perk on this map, which was Vulture Aid, and was actually very useful. I still don't really know why we don't have it in other zombies maps. It was unique to this one. Buried also gave us the ability to place wall weapons wherever we wanted. We could take a chalk drawing off the wall and then place it somewhere else, and would also give you points. There was the bank and the weapons locker, which yes, we did have on other maps, but I think they were the easiest to access on Buried, since it wasn't massive and complicated like Transit or Die Rise. Buried implemented these features the best. And then let's also not forget about the persistent perks. Even though you couldn't buy PhD Flopper, it had been a massive troll on the previous map Die Rise, you could get it on Buried as a persistent perk. So there were so many features on Buried that made it unique, let alone the old western style, the weapons and Leroy. There was so much more to it, and I haven't yet spoken about the main Easter egg. As I said earlier, this was the final map that we played as the Transit Crew, and this was also one of the only maps that had two different endings. This was done previously on Mob of the Dead, but these, I believe, unless my memory is just going messed up, were the only two maps that had two separate endings. One of them, which is canon, is where the Transit Crew survive, and the other one is where the Transit Crew die. They can be seen dead on Round Infinity. If you are doing Richtofen's side of the Easter egg, where you link the final pylon in his favour, some of the steps involve building the guillotine, powering the orbs, deciphering the codes, as I said, going to Round Infinity, and a few other things. To be fair, although it was complicated, it was definitely a fun Easter egg to figure out. And then for the Richtofen ending, he would take full power of the zombies, he would kill Maxis, and then take over Samuel's body so he could have a physical form down on Earth. That was the Richtofen ending, the one that didn't actually happen. However, for the Maxis side of the Easter egg, if the Transit Crew linked the pylon in his favour, some of the steps would be to build the gallows, destroy the orbs, deciphering some codes. Again, the steps were pretty interesting to figure out, and then the ending would lead to Maxis taking control of the Ether's energy. He would overthrow Richtofen and now have control of the zombies. He would then send Richtofen's soul inside of a zombie and tell the Transit Crew that they were doomed and that they were going to die. Of course that didn't happen, because we know a different version of Primus Richtofen opened up a rift, allowing the Transit Crew to escape, leading them on a journey to collect the Canorium and then eventually to Blood of the Dead. But either one of the endings were interesting. It was something that hadn't really been done before and hasn't been done since. So the Easter egg, like everything in this map, was unique, different, and just fun. I believe that is Buried in general. I couldn't really see what was so good about it before, but if you go through the list of everything in it and break it down, I truly believe Buried is a masterpiece. And I know that a lot of people in the community rate it highly as well, so there we go. Let me know your thoughts on this down in the comment section below. What do you think of Buried? Of course, if you have enjoyed the video, drop a like rating only if you want to. Make sure you are subscribed to stay up to date with the latest videos on the channel. Thank you for watching, and I will see you all in the next video. Until then, goodbye.